The air on planet Drevak 9 was thick with smoke and sorrow. In the dirty streets of the lower sector, a hidden auction was taking place. It was not for gold or weapons. It was for people, living beings who were captured, broken, and sold like trash. A tired alien girl was dragged onto the auction stage. Her skin was pale gray, her body thin like she hadn't eaten in days. One of her horns was chipped, the other was missing. Her eyes had no light in them. Her clothes were nothing more than rags. A rusty tag on her neck read, Lot 238, defective, sold as is. The crowd didn't cheer. They didn't clap. Most looked away in boredom. Do I hear 50 credits? The auctioneer shouted. No one moved. 30? 20? He asked again, his smile fading. She's useless, someone yelled. She looks half dead already. Another voice laughed. The auctioneer frowned. He wiped his sweaty forehead. Fine, 10 credits, that's nothing for a living being. Still silence. The alien girl stood still. She didn't beg. She didn't cry. She just stared at the floor, like she had accepted that no one wanted her, that her life was over. And then, a voice spoke. I'll take her, the voice said. Calm. Clear. Heads turned. It was a human. A man wearing a dusty brown coat and a tool belt around his waist. He looked like an engineer, not a soldier. Not rich, not angry, just quiet. The auctioneer blinked. You? You want her? Yes, the human said again. 10 credits. The crowd laughed. Maybe he wants a broken pet. Humans are weird. The auctioneer shrugged and nodded. Fine, she's yours. Chains were unlocked from her wrists. The girl didn't move. The human walked up to her slowly. He looked into her eyes. Come with me, he said softly. She looked up confused. No slap, no shout, just words. She followed. The human took her to a small shuttle outside the city. It was old but clean. She expected to be thrown into a cage. Instead, he pointed to a seat. She sat down. He gave her water. Real water. She drank it fast, like it would disappear. What's your name? He asked. She didn't answer. She had forgotten. I'm Mason, he said. I fix things, machines mostly. She stared at him, unsure if he was lying. The shuttle flew for hours through space. She fell asleep. The first real sleep in weeks. When she woke, she was on a quiet green planet standing in front of a small house made of metal and stone. Mason opened the door. This is home. You can rest here. Inside, there was a soft bed, a clean room, a window. She stepped in slowly, like it was a trick. But nothing happened. No chains, no pain. He gave her food. She ate it all, then looked at him again. What? What do you want from me? She finally asked. Mason smiled. Nothing. She didn't believe it. No one ever wanted nothing. That night she couldn't sleep. She looked around the room. It was quiet. Too quiet. She walked to the door and slowly pushed it. It opened. No lock. She stepped outside and looked at the stars, then looked back at the house. She could run, but something in her heart whispered, why would you run from kindness? She went back inside and sat by the window. In the darkness, Mason worked at a table, fixing a broken machine with glowing tools. He looked up and saw her watching. Can't sleep? She shook her head. Same here, he said. Too many things to fix. She looked down at her hands. They were shaking. He stood up and handed her a soft blanket. It's okay, you're safe.
Now!
No one had said those words to her before. She held the blanket tight. For the first time in years, she let herself believe. Maybe she wasn't trash. Maybe she was still someone. The room was quiet. Too quiet. The alien girl, now wrapped in a soft brown blanket, sat on the edge of the strange human bed. She didn't know if she was allowed to sleep or if it was a trick. For her entire life, comfort had always come with a price. The lights were soft. A small plant sat by the window. The bed smelled clean, like sun and soap. She ran her fingers over the soft sheets. Her hands were shaking again, not from fear but from confusion. Was this another cage? She stood up and walked to the door. Slowly, carefully, she pushed it. It opened with a small click. Unlocked. No guards. No cameras. No orders shouted in anger. She stepped into the hallway. The floor was smooth. She looked left, then right. No traps. No weapons aimed at her. Just silence, and the soft hum of machines. She tiptoed down the hallway and saw Mason, the human who had bought her. He was in a workshop, surrounded by tools, wires, and broken machines. He didn't see her yet. He was focused, working with steady hands, fixing something that looked like an old floating drone. She could run, right now, escape into the night, steal food, hide. But something strange happened. She didn't move. She just watched. Mason finally noticed her. He looked up and smiled, not surprised. "Can't sleep?" he asked. She didn't answer. "Want to sit?" he said, motioning to a chair beside the work table. She stayed still. "I'm fixing this old drone. It's missing a power core," he said, holding up the broken part. "These things are rare now." She stepped closer, slowly. Her eyes scanned the machine like she had seen one before. Somehow her brain remembered the shape. The connection, points, the inner core. "I've seen these," she said quietly. "On Zeltar ships." Mason looked surprised. "You've worked on Zeltar tech?" She nodded. "Do you know how to repair them?" I used to, I think." He handed her the tool. "Want to try?" Her hands trembled as she took it. It had been so long since someone trusted her with anything other than pain. She touched the drone's shell. Her fingers moved slowly, but with purpose. She removed the outer casing and looked at the wires inside. "It's wrong here," she said. "This one's upside down." Mason leaned closer. "You're right." Her chest felt warm, not from fear, but from something else. Was this pride? Later that night, she returned to the room. Again, she stood by the door. She didn't want to run anymore. She wanted to stay, not as a slave, not as a prisoner, just as someone who might be useful again. She slept. And this time, she dreamed of stars, not cages. The next day, Mason gave her new clothes. Simple but clean. She stared at the folded shirt in shock. "For me?" she asked. Of course. She took it slowly, afraid it might disappear. As she changed in the room, she looked at herself in the mirror. Thin, scarred, but now, clean. She touched her face. The horn was still broken, the scars still there. But she didn't look like a slave anymore. That evening, she sat beside Mason at the table. He placed a bowl of soup in front of her. "Eat as much as you want." She looked at him. "Why are you doing this?" "Because someone should have done it for you a long time ago," he replied. She didn't know what to say. Her throat tightened. No one had ever said that before. She sat alone in the workshop later, the broken drone in front of her. She wanted to finish it, not because Mason told her to, but because she wanted to. Her fingers moved faster now. Wires, connected. The casing clicked into place. The drone's eye flickered, then lit up. It hovered slightly. She smiled, just a little. Later that night, she stood outside, looking up at the stars. For the first time in her life, she felt something strange. Not fear, not hunger. The sun on Mason's planet rose slowly, painting the sky with gold and soft pink. The girl stood by the window, staring at the new day like it was a puzzle she couldn't solve. The warmth on her skin felt strange, gentle, not burning. She still didn't know what this place was, a trap, a dream, or something real. Down in the workshop, the sound of tools echoed again. She walked slowly toward the sound. Not sneaking, just quiet. When Mason saw her, he smiled and pointed to the table. "It's working now," he said, nodding toward the little floating drone. "You fixed it." She looked at it. The drone buzzed gently in the air like it was happy. "You said you used to work with machines," Mason continued. "Did you work in a lab?" She hesitated. "I was born inside a tech facility. My mother was a data carrier. My father, I don't remember him." "You're gifted," Mason said. "The way you handle circuits, it's not just training. It's natural." She looked down. "That's what they said before they sold me." Mason was quiet. Then he asked softly, "What's your name?" Her eyes went cold. She turned away. "It doesn't matter." "It does to me." "I had a name once," she whispered. "But they deleted it, in the system. Said, property, doesn't need names." Mason stood and picked up a small device. He placed it on the table in front of her. "This is a name key. You can input whatever name you want. It's yours to choose." She stared at it. No one had ever given her a choice before. Not in anything. She didn't touch the device for hours. She just stared at it. As if a single wrong tap might erase her forever. Mason didn't push her. He just worked beside her, fixing a small engine. Later, when he stepped out to fetch supplies, she picked it up. Her fingers hovered over the pad. She thought about the names she had heard in her life. None felt right. Then, a memory, a whisper from long ago, her mother's voice, "My little Vela." She blinked. She entered it. Vela. The screen glowed, and for the first time she felt real. When Mason returned, he found her standing tall, the name key glowing in her hand. "My name is Vela," she said. He smiled wide. "That's a beautiful name." Her voice shook a little. "Thank you for letting me choose." "You don't belong to anyone, Vela," Mason said. "Not anymore." From that day on, she worked beside Mason every morning. She fixed parts, faster, asked questions, solved problems even Mason couldn't. Her eyes grew brighter with each success. Her hands steadied. She began to laugh softly sometimes when a machine sparked or danced in the air. But deep inside, a question grew louder. Why was Mason helping her? What did he see in her that no one else saw? One evening while they were eating, she asked, "Why did you buy me at that auction?" Mason looked into his bowl, then at her. "I've seen broken things before," he said. "Machines, people. Most just need someone to believe they can still work." She stared at him. "But why me?" He smiled gently. "Because when I saw you, I didn't see a slave. I saw someone trying to survive. And I believed you deserved more." Her chest felt tight. Her eyes burned, but she didn't let the tears fall. "Not yet." That night, Vela returned to her room and looked at herself in the mirror again. Same face, same scar, same broken horn. But now, there was something new in her reflection. A name, a spark, a beginning. The rain came soft on the metal roof, tapping like fingers in the quiet night. Vela sat in the corner of Mason's workshop, a glowing screen in front of her and wires spread around like scattered vines. Her hands moved fast now, not shaking like before. Her fingers remembered. Mason watched from the doorway, arms crossed. "You fixed that hover core in less than 10 minutes, he said, impressed. "I used to fix things like this," she replied softly, "before I was sold, before they took it all away." "They didn't take everything," Mason said. "You're still you." Vela paused. "Sometimes I feel like pieces of me are still missing, like someone took parts out and didn't put them back." She picked up a damaged data cube, scanning it. "But when I touch machines, I feel whole again." The next day, Mason handed her something new. A strange circular object with deep alien runes carved into it. "I found this buried in a wreck near the border," he said. "It's old. I can't read the language." Vela took it carefully. As soon as her fingers touched the runes, the object lit up. She gasped. A soft voice whispered in her head, not in words but in feeling. "Vela?" Mason asked, noticing her change. Her eyes glowed faintly. "I know this tech," she whispered. "It's not just a machine. It's part of a map." They placed the object on the work table. A bright light flashed and a small star chart hovered in the air. Glowing points, moving lines, and strange alien symbols. "This isn't from our galaxy," Mason said, stunned. Vela nodded. "It's from the old worlds, the forgotten systems. My people, we were once connected to this knowledge. You remembered it by touching this?" "I didn't just remember," she said. "I felt it, like it woke something inside me." The next few days passed quickly. Vela worked late into the night, unlocking more from the artifact. She linked it to Mason's old database. Together, they started tracing the map's data. She found things Mason never knew existed. Locations, signals, old frequencies. "Your mind is a key," Mason said one evening. "You're not just talented, you're connected." But with each discovery, something dark stirred. One morning, while scanning an old frequency, Vela found a signal, one pulsing with sharp, strange energy. Her face went pale. "I know this." "Signal," she said. "What is it?" "It's a hunter beacon. Someone's tracking this map. And now they know I've unlocked it." Mason stood up, serious. "We need to shut it down." "It's too late," she whispered. That night, as they tried to power down the map device, Vela suddenly collapsed. Her head filled with static, images flashing through her brain, stars exploding, ancient machines, faces she couldn't recognize. Mason rushed to her side. Her hands were glowing. The map device responded to her body directly now. No wires needed. "She's becoming part of it," Mason whispered. When she opened her eyes again, they were brighter than before. "I think I was made for this," Vela said in a trembling voice. "Not just trained, designed." She sat alone later, staring at her hands. She had thought she was broken, but now she wondered, what if she was never meant to be a servant? What if she was meant to be something greater, and they sold her because they were afraid? The sky above the quiet planet turned dark too fast. Clouds rolled in like warning shadows. Mason stood outside his house, looking up with worry in his eyes. Something felt wrong. The air had changed. Inside, Vela sat at the work table, hands glowing as she synced with the ancient star map again. The symbols now moved faster, pulsing with strange energy. She winced suddenly. "Someone is watching." Mason rushed in. "What do you mean?" "I felt a pulse," she said, her voice tight. "Not from the device, from outside. Someone is scanning me." Before Mason could reply, an alarm blared. They ran to the control room. On the screen, red dots appeared, fast ships entering orbit. Silent. No broadcasts, no warnings. Vela stared at the screen. "I know that design," she whispered. "Shadow. Collectors." Mason tensed. "Bounty hunters?" "Worse," she said. "They hunt people like me." Minutes later, the skies shook. A sleek black dropship screamed through the clouds and landed in the field outside. 4 armored figures stepped out, tall, insect-like helmets, pulse rifles ready. Mason grabbed an old blaster and looked at Vela. "Go out the back. Hide in the cave. I'll buy you time." Vela didn't move. "No, I won't leave you. They're here for you. Then I'll face them." Before he could argue, she raised her hand, and the lights flickered across the entire house. Her pulse was syncing with every machine nearby. "I can feel everything now," she said softly. "This house, the drones, even the satellites." The hunters spoke through a speaker. "Turn over the girl, human. She holds forbidden technology." Mason stepped outside, blaster in hand. "You'll have to come through me." They raised their weapons. But before they could fire, 3 broken drones, once repaired by Vela, flew from the roof and slammed into their formation. Sparks exploded. One hunter fell. "Did you do that?" Mason shouted over the chaos. Vela stepped outside, her eyes glowing like stars. "I didn't just fix them. I command them now." She raised her hand and the soil under the attackers cracked. An old buried defense turret, long dead, suddenly powered on and fired a sonic blast, throwing the hunters back. The last one tried to crawl away. Vela walked up to him. "Why are you hunting me?" the hunter hissed. "Because you're a living key. You open things that should stay closed." "I was sold as worthless," she said, voice cold. "Now you say I'm too dangerous?" The hunter laughed weakly. "Exactly. That's why they wanted you gone." She looked at him. "Not anymore." After the battle, Mason sat on the ground, catching his breath. "You saved us." Vela knelt beside him. "You saved me first." He looked into her glowing eyes. "What are you now?" She didn't answer right away. Then she said, "Not a slave, not a machine. Something in between. Something new." That night the stars were quiet again, but Vela wasn't. She stood at the map table, tracing new symbols, unlocking new paths. "They'll send more," she said. Mason nodded. "Then we'll be ready." She turned to him. "I need to know who I am, what I was made for. This map, I think it will lead me there." He smiled. "Then let's follow it." In the deep silence of night, Vela stood alone inside the old workshop. The star map hovered above the table, glowing softly, its strange symbols now forming patterns only she could understand. But this time, something was different. The map wasn't just reacting to her touch anymore. It was responding to her thoughts. She reached out slowly and the map pulsed brighter. Sparks of energy jumped between her fingertips and the device. For a second her eyes rolled back. Visions filled her mind. Machines, memory storage, code, running like blood through wires, and at the center of it all, herself. Not as a slave, not as a girl, but as a system. Vela gasped and fell to her knees. Mason ran in, catching her before she hit the floor. "What happened?" he asked. "I saw inside me," she whispered. "Mason, I'm not just part machine." He looked at her, concerned. She touched her chest. "There's a core inside me. Not like a heart, more like a processor. It's alive, and it's waking up." Mason helped her sit. "Is it dangerous?" "I don't know yet," she replied. "But I think, it's trying to show me something." They ran tests. Mason scanned her body with old medical tech, enhanced by alien tools. The results made him freeze. "Vela, your neural pathways, they're not normal. They're grown like circuits." "Not implanted?" she asked. He shook his head. "Built, in like your body and the machine were always one." She looked at her hands. "So I was never fully organic?" "No. But you're also not fully machine," he said. "You're something in between." Vela sat still for a long time. Everything made sense now. Why the auctioneers called her defective. Why the scientists abandoned her. They didn't understand her. And what people don't understand, they fear. The next day, while alone in the workshop, Vela sat in front of the star map again. She closed her eyes. This time she didn't touch it, she merged with it. Lines of code appeared in her mind, beautiful, glowing threads that stretched across galaxies. She followed them. At the end of one long path, she saw it. A symbol. The same, one burned into her shoulder at birth, an ancient seal. It belonged to something called the Sentient Protocol. Mason found her an hour later, eyes glowing, voice calm. "I found the name of my kind," she said. "We were once guardians of knowledge. Keys to unlock lost technology, peaceful, but when war came, they tried to erase us." "They erased history," Mason said. "No," she whispered. "They buried it, inside people like me." Suddenly alarms flashed again, but this time not from orbit, from underground. Mason checked the radar. There's a tunnel system beneath this house. Someone's coming. Vela stood, calm. I'm ready. Metal doors burst open. More hunters, different this time. Not sent by slavers, but by ancient systems still running old protocols. Error. Uncontrolled unit detected, one of the machines said. They didn't want to capture her. They wanted to shut her down. Vela stepped forward. I'm not a broken unit, she said. I'm Vela. She raised her hand and the entire room shifted. Machines turned to her side, walls lit up. Gravity pulsed under her control. The enemy bots paused and then shorted out. One by one, she had overridden their commands with her mind. Mason stared. You didn't fight them, you rewrote them. I didn't want destruction, she said. I wanted choice. Later, as they walked through the silent house, Mason asked, Are you still you? Vela smiled. I'm more myself now than ever before. The sun rose quietly over the green hills of Mason's homeworld, but the peace it brought was only on the surface. Underground, machines hummed with new life. Above, satellites still searched for Vela. And across the stars, whispers began to spread. The girl they called worthless was now awakening forgotten power. Vela stood on the hilltop, the wind in her silver hair, her eyes glowing softly. She had changed. No longer just a quiet, broken figure. Now she carried something older than the stars inside her. The lost knowledge of a civilization erased by fear. She looked down at the old star map one last time. It's complete, she said. Mason joined her, holding a small pack. You sure? You want to do this? She nodded. The signal must be sent, the truth must rise again. They traveled by shuttle to the highest tower in the region, once a forgotten comms beacon, now repaired by Vela's touch. There she uploaded the full map, along with her memory logs and a message. To every world that ever believed in throwing away the broken, look again. What you tossed into the dark may become the light you need most. Across distant planets, the message echoed. Scientists, rebels, orphans, forgotten slaves. They watched a glowing image of Vela speak, no longer begging for mercy, but offering hope. The girl once sold for 10 credits was now leading the rebirth of an entire galactic network. But not everyone was happy. The collectors, the old empires, the powerful elites. They saw danger. A living key like her could open vaults of hidden tech, shift power balances, collapse their control, send the destroyers, one warlord ordered. But it was too late. Vela had already connected to everything. Her mind stretched across systems. She woke up ancient satellites, whispered to forgotten AIs, activated deep world archives, and everywhere her code touched, she gave control back to the people. Small machines stopped obeying slavers. Factory drones stopped building weapons. Ships once locked for nobles opened for refugees. She didn't need an army. She became the code, inside the machines. Back on the hill, Mason sat beside her as the signal ended. You changed the galaxy without firing a shot, he said. Vela looked at him. You changed me first. He smiled. You were always powerful. You just needed someone to believe it. Her eyes shimmered. Everyone called me junk. You didn't. Mason leaned back, gazing at the stars. They'll name worlds after you know. She laughed softly. I don't want statues. What do you want then? She paused, then said, a place where no child is ever called worthless again. Days passed. The world watched. The systems shifted. And far away, a new council formed, built not by rulers, but by survivors, engineers, thinkers, and the once forgotten, she. The center of their seal was her name, Vela, the girl who rebooted the stars. Back at Mason's home, she planted a small tree. He watched her, confused. What's that for? A reminder, she said. That from broken roots, something strong can still grow.